Rudy Giuliani had an exceptionally terrible week this week. And one of the reasons, of course this one's a little more minor, is because he got smacked around by a judge, his bankruptcy judge, telling him you owe several $100,000 because basically you were a complete a-hole during your bankruptcy hearing. But I'll get more to that in a moment, because the worst thing that happened to Giuliani this week was that a 3-judge panel from the Circuit Court of the District of Columbia ruled that he will be disbarred. Similar, of course, to what happened to him earlier this year in the state of New York, where he was also disbarred for his attempts to overturn the results of the 2020 election. So what happened is that back in May, the bar for the District of Columbia, they had a board put together that was looking into Rudy Giuliani, and they came to the conclusion that because of his efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 election and to disenfranchise voters and to undermine democracy, and because he filed all these frivolous lawsuits that went nowhere, he should be disbarred. In fact, this is what they wrote. We conclude that disbarment is the only sanction that will protect the public, the courts, and the integrity of the legal profession, and deter other lawyers from launching similarly baseless claims in the pursuit of such wide-ranging yet completely unjustified relief. That was in May. Now, the bar doesn't have the actual authority to disbar. That has to come from the courts upon the recommendation of the bar. And again, the 3-judge panel from the District of Columbia ruled this week that yes, we agree with you, he is going to be disbarred. And one of the specific things that they cited was Giuliani's efforts to disenfranchise tens of thousands of voters in the state of Pennsylvania, depriving them of their right to vote, depriving them of, their access to democracy itself. Basically, what you did in Pennsylvania was the most egregious thing you did, but everything else was also really, really bad. So Giuliani no longer can practice law in Washington, D.C. He can no longer practice law in New York. But to be honest, those things don't necessarily matter due to the fact that Rudy Giuliani was not actively practicing law. But his spokesperson, Ted Goodman, came out and decided to let the courts have it, and Goodman issued a statement saying, quote, "Members of the legal community who want to protect the integrity of our justice system should immediately speak out against this partisan, politically motivated decision. The people coming after Mayor Giuliani can't take away the fact that he remains the most effective prosecutor in American history, who did more to improve the lives of others than most any other American alive today." Yeah. Too bad everything this man ever did in his history is now undermined because he threw his lot in with Donald Trump. Okay? That's what happened. Rudy Giuliani would not have been facing any of these problems had he not gotten in bed, metaphorically, with Donald Trump. That is 100% what this is about. This is now his legacy. I mean, honestly, at this point, most people don't even remember that he was the mayor of New York on 9/11. They don't remember that he was called America's mayor. He's just the creepy, weird old guy who got in with Donald Trump and ruined his own life. But I do love that in their initial ruling, the board, not the court, but the board pointed out that we've got to prevent other lawyers from doing stupid crap like this in the future. And seeing as how we've got an election, a little over a month away at this point, and Trump is already threatening to not accept the results, this is a big shot across the bow. That's why this decision right now is so horrific for Donald Trump. This is going to make any lawyer that may want to challenge his election results think twice or 3 or 4 times about casting their lot with him. But as I said, that's not the only bad thing that happened to Giuliani this week. The bankruptcy judge that was overseeing his bankruptcy case, which of course he withdrew a couple months ago, ruled that you have to pay $300,000 to the independent auditor that we had to hire because you were not being transparent about your finances. So just a little recap on that. Throughout the bankruptcy proceedings, the creditors, the people that Giuliani owed money to, kept arguing in court that, hey, this guy's not being honest about his finances. He's hiding money. He's hiding documents. Like, we don't have access to everything, and he's trying to hide stuff. So the judge agreed and said, okay, we're going to hire an independent auditor, an independent accounting firm basically, to go through all of your finances. You can't hide anything from them. The court has asked you repeatedly to turn it over, and you've refused. So now that it's over, the judge says, oh, by the way, we're not covering that bill. You, bankrupt boy, you've got to pay it, and it's $300,000. For a man who is bankrupt, that's a lot of money. I mean, hell, for anybody, that's going to be a lot of money. But here's what the judge said, because Giuliani had said, well, what if I just pay some of it and not all of it? And the judge was like, there was an alarming and inappropriate lack of financial transparency by the debtor, which led to the need for this work. In other words, if you'd have just turned this stuff over, you wouldn't have to pay any of it because it wouldn't exist. You did this to yourself, just like you did that whole getting disbarred thing to yourself because, once again, you decided to cast your lot with Donald Trump, and like everybody else who's done it, it's pretty much destroyed your entire life and, in your case, your legacy as well.
One of today's video sponsors is 8 Sleep. If you're like me, you struggle to not only fall asleep, but you also struggle to stay asleep throughout the night. And the big reason is because the temperature can't seem to stay correct. 8 Sleep is revolutionizing the way we sleep with their innovative sleep technology known as the Pod. If you add the Pod to your current mattress like a fitted sheet, it is automatically going to cool down or warm up each side of your bed. It's been clinically proven to give you up to 1 hour more of quality sleep every night. They've just launched the newest generation of the Pod 4 Ultra. The standout feature of the Pod 4 Ultra is its exceptional cooling capability. It can cool down each side of the bed to 20 degrees Fahrenheit below room temperature, ensuring you and your partner stay cool even through the hottest nights. There's nothing else like it on the market. Imagine being able to set your bed to the perfect temperature, as low as 55 degrees Fahrenheit, for each stage of your sleep cycle. The Pod's autopilot feature makes smart temperature adjustments throughout the night, enhancing your deep and REM sleep. Plus, you can leave your wearables on the nightstand. The Pod 4 Ultra's integrated and imperceptible sensors track your sleep time, sleep phases, RHV, and heart rate with 99% accuracy. And they also tell you how long you snore for and the intensity of your snoring. And best of all, the Pod 4 Ultra can be easily added to any bed. Whether you're an athlete, a business titan, or just someone looking to improve their sleep, the Pod 4 Ultra's cooling technology is an absolute game changer. I have been using 8 Sleep for a few weeks, and it has completely changed the quality of my sleep. I can actually sleep all the way through the night, wake up feeling normal again. This product is a life changer, and I mean that sincerely. So head to 8sleep.com/ROF and use the code ROF to get $350 off Pod 4 Ultra. They currently ship to United States, Canada, United Kingdom, Europe, and Australia. Again, that website is 8sleep.com/ROF, and make sure you use the code ROF to get $350 off the Pod 4 Ultra.